Call the Lorraine School Committee meeting to order for January 12th, January 11th. I want to thank everybody for moving their schedules around for this, what seems to be a cursed attempt at us to have a meeting. Our last meeting was canceled due to snow and people stuck for 3 or 4 hours on the highway, and 2 of us showing up. And Michael actually did show up, I think, at around 8 o'clock, quarter of 8.
I showed up all 8:30.
Did you?
I've been in the middle school library since last night at 6 o'clock.
And then we had a little bit of a snafu with our posting for this week, so we couldn't meet last night, which was our regularly scheduled meeting. We got a long agenda, so let's get to it right away. I'm going to move things around a little bit. I'll get to public input in a second. But the first thing we want to do, we have an appreciation award that we wanted to hand out tonight. And it goes to an individual who has served on the North Reading Dollars for Scholars Citizens Scholarship Foundation Committee as both a member, and he's also been president of the organization. He's been involved for 12 years. The gentleman who has put all that hard work into it is Dennis Maraska. He has helped to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for North Reading High School graduates over those 12 years. The Dollars for Scholars, they give out, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 scholarships every graduation year. That's the last one, and if you're at graduation, you're sitting there as they name all the names. It's an extremely generous organization, and the school committee is really grateful for the contribution that Dennis has made to this organization. He's going to be stepping down at this time after his 12 years, which is a great commitment. And we just wanted to present him with this award of appreciation at this time. Thanks. I know that the transcript wants to get a picture, Dennis, so where do you want us to go, Bob?
Come out.
Around there?
Around there, yeah.
I would want a tie. I would have to borrow a tie if I. All three. Come on. Come on, orbit. It's like get behind us, or you know, you already done a fine job, right? Don't get the boot in this. So, wait.
I'm glad you wore a different tie tonight. The one you wore last night did Photoshop all kinds of colors.
What, you on a tour?
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again. Good job.
Good job.
Dennis? Yeah, thank you very much. Welcome.
Mr. Parisi's taking over for Mr. Maraska.
Is that true?
We should all be concerned.
Is that true?
Tony, you taking over for Dennis?
I am.
So you will be the new president of the...
I've been with CSF for 14 years, and I'm stepping up from treasurer to president.
Dennis, do you want to reconsider?
Well, thank you for all your service on the committee also.
My pleasure.
It's a great foundation, and the kids from this town really benefit from it. So thanks a lot to both of you.
Thank you.
All right, next, let's get back to public input. Anybody who wishes to be heard. I know that Mr. Simons would like to address the committee tonight, so Jeff, if you want to.
Okay, great.
And I'll mention again, Jeff and his family recently donated a really nice sign for the Arthur Kenny Field. It was, I think it was put up in November, and it really looks great, and I really appreciate the donation. But I know Jeff wanted to talk a little bit about Mr. Kenny tonight.
Yeah, and that's the reason I'm here. Actually, first order of business is to thank Jerry for waylaying the mail packet last week so that the meeting could be delayed so everyone could watch the football game last night. Appreciate that, Jerry.
What food?
That was very kind of you. I knew you must have had something to do with that. But yeah, as Mel mentioned, that my family has decided to make a gift of appreciation to the school system for a couple of reasons. I'd like to talk briefly about both of them tonight. And so the sign that you see outside on the new field, the Arthur J. Kennedy Athletic Field sign, was installed Thanksgiving weekend and replaced a sign that had been there since about 1981 that used to be behind the bleachers that aren't there anymore. So this one is, I hope you've seen it. It's beautiful. It's double-sided. You can see it from the field side. You can see it from the street. It's, you know, it's fitting addition, I think, to the new beautiful field. And the reason I chose the family chose the sign was for two reasons. And the first one was to honor Mr. Kenny, who I've known for probably about 18 years. He's my sort of behind, through the woods, backdoor neighbor. So I've got to know Mr. Kenny over the years, but I'm afraid that a lot of people don't know Mr. Kenny. He's been retired for it'll be 30 years this spring, and he'll be 95 years old in April. So he spends a lot of his time up in Littleton, New Hampshire these days, but I thought it might be interesting just to give a little brief background about Mr. Kenny's little history here to just sort of let people know the reason that the field is named for him. He's been a longtime resident of North Reading and also Littleton, New Hampshire. So they've always had these two homes, and they're up there mostly. He's had some kind of knee and hip issues, and it's a little more level up there for him. He's more comfortable up there where at his New Hampshire house. So he's down here about every couple of weeks. But he's got a fascinating history, which he shared with me and some other people in the neighborhood. But his sort of, it's kind of fitting that he's named on the athletic field. He was quite an athlete himself. In 1932, he was a star pitcher for the Milford High School, left-handed pitcher, captain for the Milford High School baseball team that won the state championship 3 times, and then became the captain of the Massachusetts All-Scholastic team after his high school career. He then went on to Holy Cross. He was not allowed to play varsity as a freshman because of their rules, but he was a 3-year varsity pitcher at Holy Cross and had a record of 16-2 as a pitcher, including an exhibition game against the Red Sox, in which the Holy Cross Crusaders beat the Red Sox 4-2, as Mr. Kenny is proud of telling, and he struck out Jimmy Fox, a career .325 hitter, twice in that game. So he loves telling these stories. He's a great storyteller, and I tell you, you talk to him, he can remember just about every kid that ever went through this high school. He knows what they did, what college they went to, what their brothers did. I mean, he'll just whip these things off right now more than I can remember what I did yesterday. He graduated Holy Cross with a Bachelor of Arts in Classical Languages and Education, and started off that summer in the Cape Cod League playing for Harwich. But very shortly thereafter, during that summer, he actually got called up to the Boston Braves, and he was a major league pitcher the summer right after he graduated from Holy Cross. His major league debut was on July 1st of 1938. Casey Stengler was the manager, made 2 relief appearances, got optioned to Hartford, and came back to the big club in September. So he started off his major league career in the late 30s, and the way he describes it was that when he was in college, he thought the life of a professional baseball player would be very exciting, but once he got there, he realized it wasn't quite as exciting as it appeared. When you weren't there. So he decided he ought to start pursuing another career. So he left baseball after only about a year or so and went back to UNH to get his master's in education, and was going to begin his to learn to be a teacher. And he actually started teaching up in Newmarket, New Hampshire, near UNH in 1939, taught for a couple of years before World War I, when he got called and became a captain in the 398th Bomber Group, United States Air Force, and served for 5 years in the Air Force, flying missions over England in this bomber group. He was a communications officer, cryptographic security was the job description. They did mission briefings, and so he did that for 4 or 5 years, based out of England. After the war, he went back to teaching in Franconia, New Hampshire. Then he became the principal in Littleton, New Hampshire, and was there from 1950 to 1964. And then that's when he came here to North Reading High School. So he was the principal here at North Reading High School from 1964 to 1981. He hired Frank Carey. That's one of his, what he considers one of his major accomplishments. So he's friends with Frank Carey to this day. So they both love their baseball, and Mr. Kenny tries to catch some baseball games in the spring. And real highlight for him was one a few years ago. I was fortunate to be able to take him up to the Lusher Field up with a spinners play up in Lowell for a state tournament game. And oh boy, he loved that. So he met Frank and met the team. Frank has him speak to the team from time to time. So he loved that. His last high school graduation was in 1981. He remembers the day fondly when the Arthur Kenny Athletic Field was dedicated at that graduation. And some kid by the name of Russ Bowers was the class president, he recalls. That's somebody I think in this room knows Russ Bowers, son of Cliff Bowers. Frank O'Donoghue was the superintendent. He thinks on the school committee in those days was Bill Ryer, Bob Mosseri, Bob Germino, and he couldn't remember the other two, but this is just an example. He's unbelievable. He's got a memory like a steel trap. So as I mentioned, Mr. Kenny will be 95 this spring, and he'll be celebrating his 30th anniversary of his retirement as a longtime principal here at North Reading High School. So I'm actually kind of glad we got to do this tonight here at the high school to have a little trip down memory lane for Mr. Kenny. He was set to come that last night, the last time, but the snow sort of left. He decided he wants to stay at home. It worked out just as well. But I'd love to get him back maybe to a meeting or to a basketball game or something, just so you all get a chance to meet him. He'd love to do it. He was all set to come to that last meeting to say his appreciation as well.
Great.
Okay.
Any questions for Jeff?
Actually, I have a couple more minutes. I know it's a busy night, but the other reason I wanted to just also express my great thanks to the school system for the education of my children, particularly my son Nathan, who just kind of graduated from the North Reading school system. He's been part of the school system here from age 3 through age 22. Young man with developmental disabilities, and he's been part of the school system for many years. And I am just so proud and so thankful for what the North Reading school system did for him. I think you should be very proud of yourselves. We've come a long way together over these years. We started off back when Nathan was 3 years old, when the little school was still closed. Scene Daycare was up at the little school. We were renting space at Scene Daycare, and that was kind of started an integrated daycare program up there. So it's been a good team effort. I have to admit I was a good advocate, and also you were very receptive to a lot of ideas over the years, and many changes in the school system, and knowing a lot of other families of other people with disabilities all around Massachusetts. I can assure you that North Reading is way on the top as far as the job that they do for people with disabilities, and you should we can never be thankful enough, and doing something for the high school, in particular at the field, is also means an awful lot to us. Certainly one of the proudest days of our lives was the day that Nathan graduated. Some of you were there. It was a pretty proud moment. And if I can briefly, just like to thank a couple of people over the years that really went above and beyond in Nathan's education, many of whom are still around, some are not. But the Scene Daycare folks really kind of got the ball rolling. The teachers, Irene, Ann, and Mary Claire, and the therapist there, who really sort of got into the groove of delivering services in the classroom, in the setting where the kids work, something that the school system has really embraced, as opposed to the kind of the classic pullouts for that type of education. So North Reading, very progressive in that regard. At the batch, Principal Pam Christodoulou was just an amazing leader, really helped us quite a bit. Teachers Laurie Johnson and the legendary Talita Gibson were just absolutely fantastic. Kathy Vitro, who's still a teacher in the system, was actually an assistant to Talita Gibson. It was actually her first job in coming into the North Reading school system, was being an assistant in Nathan's classroom. At the middle school, some of the teachers on the team, Judy Zager, Bob Taus, Wayne Shank, special educator Laura Scola, whose name is